Thanks everyone for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I'm your host Lorenzo Melcher, coming to you from PB Studios in my parents' basement. As always, thank you for always liking, sharing, subscribing, downloading to the podcast, doing anything you can to help the podcast grow, even sharing posts every once in a while. Let me know your favorite episode, all that stuff. Search on social media, just search the Nerdball Podcast. And if you want to be on, you can email the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget also Random Mondays and Things I Learned Tuesdays. Those are coming out audio only. So if this podcast ever gets big, then I can force people to pay for the video of those. So from now on, everything's free. Keep doing what you're doing. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks.
Hi, this is Steve Hardy, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Steve, thanks for coming on my podcast today.
No worries, Coach.
We've known each other for a while.
It's been a long while.
Yeah. You were at Perrysburg for a while. Now, how long have you been at Southview now?
So, yeah, I coached Perrysburg 8th grade for 9 years, and this is my 9th year.
Really? That long?
So 18 years coaching.
Wow.
I was an official for 3 years, and I played for 12. So it's not been very many years of my life where it didn't start and end with a football season.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I always ask my guests, especially first-time guests, is what is something you're nerding out about? Something you're really into, something that gets you away from like your daily thing, just something that, whether it's TV show, cooking, going for runs, whatever it is to like get you away.
Right. Obviously being super busy, but, I love, just working out and physical fitness has always been a huge part of my life. But, I don't think that is something like I nerd out on. It's just something that's part of my life.
Yeah.
My wife and I are big foodies. I have to say that. Just going to nice restaurants, any kind of food, just trying new things and that's fun, which kind of goes together with working out because you do one without the other. So it's definitely put it on and take it off, put it on and take it off. But
What do you have a favorite food that you like?
Pizza. I gotta say pizza. I could eat that every day, but then I have to work out 3 times a day probably. But
what about a restaurant?
You know what?
You ever go to?
Yeah, Benchmark. Is
right.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Chop House downtown's really good too. Over by my house, Domo sushi is really good too.
Okay.
So
I only go to Benchmark when I get invited by somebody else who's paying for it. So.
yeah, we just went there for my mom's birthday, and it was she picked the place, and we paid the tab.
Hey, what are you gonna do? It's your mom, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I also love sushi. I've never had like really good sushi. Like I
go downtown sushi.
Yeah, I only ever get like Meyer. Yeah. Like I like my if it's just me having dinner, I'll go to Meyer and get a little 10-pack of sushi and take off.
So once you have really good sushi, though, you can't.
I bet. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, no, stay away, because that's another pricey meal too sometimes. But.
Yeah, I heard that place downtown. It's really good.
Kango's is good.
Yeah. I don't know with our kids are still young where they're with us everywhere.
No, don't take kids.
Yeah, and they're like they won't like anything either.
No,
like,
they won't appreciate it either.
Yeah, they don't have chicken nuggets there probably.
Maybe.
You mentioned working out too. Have you always been that way? Just been into working out?
Yeah, and that's something passed on by my dad.
Oh, okay.
So when I was a kid, he grew up going to Torio's House Club. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a big name in Toledo. Dick Torio, and I went there with my dad as long as I can remember.
Really?
Just doing all sorts of different lifts and runs and in the pool and all sorts of that stuff. So it was kind of like ingrained in me with that. Went football. My sister was a state champion gymnast.
Oh wow!
And now she coaches gymnastics too and judges it too. So it's sports and fitness has always been kind of part of my family. And my wife is big in the fitness world too. So it's kind of a just the lifestyle thing.
Well, I'd imagine you, because it's been so ingrained with you, you probably wouldn't have, gotten with your wife if that wasn't a part of her.
Right. Yeah. We both worked in campus recreation at the University of Toledo. So she was on the fitness side. I was on more of the operations management, guy ordering treadmills and ordering weight equipment and things like that. So, that's kind of where we met. So, yeah.
Torio? Torio's Health Club sounds like a health club in like the 80s.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. So it was around for a really long time. It closed. He passed away, I think, about 10 years ago. But it housed a lot of the great wrestlers in the
Okay.
area. Greg Wojciechowski was there. That's why he was actually one of my dad's best friends.
Okay.
So he's an awesome guy, the great Wojo. So, just growing up in that environment was really unique and cool. And it's kind of a past, but you say that Torio's around anybody in the Toledo area that's older in age, they're going to know what you're talking about for sure.
I would imagine that for you too, like going there with your dad and working out. Obviously, you're hanging out with your dad, but it doesn't seem like something like a friend. Unless it was like a best friend. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing, you want to come with me? You're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it was great to go there and not even like, because I was younger, so I wouldn't like do a lot.
Yeah.
But, just memories of that place and there. Like for one example, I remember being there during the when the Bills came back, they were down to the Oilers, like 28 points in the playoff game, and they came back and won the second half. I don't know why I remember that game, but I remember sitting there at Torio's Health Club and watching that game on a random Sunday or Saturday, whatever it was. But it's just memories like that, that you just keep forever.
Yeah, that's cool. You obviously grew up around here. What school did you go to?
I went to Cardinal Stritch.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in Oregon. I went to Oregon public schools up until 8th grade, and then my parents' neighborhood is like right next to Cardinal Stritch in Oregon. So my cousins went there, my sister went there, so it was an easy choice.
I went to a K-8 Catholic school, Our Lady of Lourdes in Toledo, and we visited, as 8th graders, visited all the Catholic high schools.
Yep.
And that was my favorite Catholic high school, was Cardinal Stritch. And I think it's because it was so small. Like, I like the small aspect because my 8th grade had 13 kids in it. So I like that part of it. And it was just cool. Like, it was also cool, like, going to all these schools and these kids are like, yeah, it's cool. Come here, blah, 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 all that stuff. But for whatever reason, I just was really drawn to Cardinal Stritch.
Yeah, those days when we had the visits, those were always big days. It was like 3 pep rallies a day.
Yeah.
And, we kind of got into it, but you're not in school, you're not in class. So I guess that's a perk. Right?
Yeah, you can be excited about it. Yeah. Ultimately, my dad didn't want to pay for 4 kids to go to Catholic high school. So he's like, hey, let's move you to Perrysburg. We'll go there and not pay for that education.
It worked out all right.
Yeah, I think so. So you were obviously involved in football in high school.Id you do other sports?
Yeah, I threw, shot and disc.
Oh, okay.
I played basketball for 2 years, but mainly football, weightlifting.
What position did you play?
In football?
Football,
Okay,
yeah.
so I played offensive line throughout high school, and then I went to Tiffin University, and I came in as a center. They fed me and fed me and fed me, and I lost like 10 pounds. So
Really?
All right, you're gonna move to tight end. All right, fine. I'll be the blocking tight end next to the 6'7" Canadian tight end they brought in. So it was all good.
Look, as a tight end coach, if we can get that 6th offensive lineman to play tight end,
Right.
it's so beneficial.
Yeah.
Last year we had Tivin Bennett, who in the summer he was going to be offensive lineman, and then we still were having trouble finding a tight end. And then he came to us, and then he went back, and then right before the season started, he was like, "All right, you're going to play tight end," and it was awesome. Like, he was such a good tight end, like awesome blocker. Like, it was just, again, having a 6th offensive lineman there, it's just
Right.
catch,
And, if it's a guy who is coming from the offensive line, the offensive linemen don't see him as a prima donna receiver. They see him as one of theirs.
One of us.
Just in a different number. He gets to wear a cooler number. But, And then you get that all the time with fullbacks and tight ends, I think, especially as a coach. In the younger levels, coaching junior high, you got a guy who's probably going to play tight end in the future, but you need him at tackle because you need, you only have so many guys.
Yep.
But once you get, into you got guys who want to play those positions because they're not offensive line or whatever. But you ultimately got to get to the point where you don't care where you play, you do what's best for your team.
Correct.
And once you get your kids to buy into that is the ultimate. Your team's going to be better, win or lose. They're going to be better to be around, more fun, more enjoyable. They're going to get the game better if they accept that and get past themselves.
Now, it does happen where, and I'm sure you've had in your experience as coaching, where you're like, hey, so-and-so, it would be really great for not only you, but for the team, if you went to this position and the kid's like, nope, I'm like, okay. Now, it happens way the other side where they're like, I'll do whatever you want, coach. But every once in a while you get those kids and it's just like, okay, well, I'm not going to make you do anything, but we'll keep you here because this is what you want to do and whatever. Like that for me, because it's happened for me a couple times, even when I was like a junior high coach or a freshman coach. I'm like, okay, well, you'll hopefully you understand later and why we talk about this,
and I think another thing that contributes to that is bad or poor coaching. Like you take somebody who should be an offensive lineman, is going to be an amazing offensive lineman, and you have coaches who just want to win games, so they put him in the backfield, or they put him in a position that's out of place just because no one can tackle him, or he's the biggest person.
Yep.
I mean, just coming
that happens a lot.
Coming to mind, like Chaz Westfield,
was
a huge guy, and when I coached him, he played in 7th grade. It was a fullback and scored like 50 touchdowns, and I'm like, you're going to be a guard, so play guard. And it took a little twisting, but he did. And then the next year he was at freshman, he's back playing fullback. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Come on. And then he ends up being
a guard.
Yeah, an all-state guard.
Yeah,
I mean, phenomenal football player. But, you get those guys that buy into that. And so you see that.
Well, and some of those times, too, like there's a kid right now who I'm trying to get to play freshman football. He's one of my Mateo's really good friends. And I told Dirk, I'm like, this kid, he's probably going to play tight end as a freshman, but by the time he's a junior, he's going to be a lineman. Like it's just, we see that, and I'm sure you see that stuff all the time. Like the sooner we can get them to the positions that they're going to end up at, the better. And at least with tight end and O-line, it's not a huge jump because you more or less do the same thing,
Except for those 2 times, maybe you get a screen. When you put in tight end screen, man, that's the best day in a tight end's life. I'm telling you, it's the best day.
100%. I agree with you. They love it. Or when they actually do score a touchdown.
Oh yeah,
it's Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I remember when I asked Tiven about when he scored his only touchdown he's ever scored. I think he equated it to like winning the Super Bowl or something. Like it was the greatest thing ever. Like, yeah, man. When you're a lineman, I was a lineman from the time I was 8 to 18. It sucks.
At times.
100%. Now, I always tell the kids too, like, I did not like it, especially seeing my friends the whole time being able to do all these quote unquote cooler positions.
Right.
But once I learned offensive line, then I'm like, no, this is perfect for me. It's a lot of fun. I love it. But it took until I was a sophomore, I think, where I kind of had that mentality. It's like, oh yeah, this is good.
And then you meet people like Cade Zimmerly,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, well that kid. And I had one like that, Hudson Vance, who just first day of freshman football, he had a shirt that says like something like O-lineman rule or something like that, or like he's so proud of being an O-lineman. And now he's at Hillsdale playing O-line. So I mean, you get those guys, and once if they jump into that, then there's no stopping them, man. There's no stopping them.
I'm hoping because I was an offensive lineman, I can have some of that for Mateo too, because I mean he talks about it now. He plays flag football, so he likes that. He scratches that itch there, He's still the center, but he gets to go out for a pass, So, but I'm hoping having that, and then him being around the football team all the time, like seeing he has a goal right now. He's going to be in 8th grade next year. His goal is to start varsity as a freshman because he sees Reed Gherkin, and that's what he did. So he has his goals, and to be around it, and that it just makes it a little easier for me. Like, okay, he knows what an offensive line is and what it should be and how it feels, and hopefully that never feels that.
Yeah.
But he will, because that's what kids are. But flag football is so prevalent now that they get that. So so when you were in high school playing football, do you remember getting recruited? Like,
oh yeah, I mean,
how was that for you?
It was, I mean, totally different than nowadays.
Yeah,
because it's all phone calls. We didn't have cell phones. I had a car phone, which is cool. And it's funny. I remember my senior year, I played CYO basketball, and one of the main reasons I liked doing it because I just got to leave the house. Because I'm not like trying to brag, but like all like the Division III schools in like anywhere close to here. Some Division II NAI. It looked a lot different. There was more NAI schools. There were less Division II. I mean, in the area, I think Findlay was the only D2 school when I was in 99. So I graduated in 99.
I know when I was going through it, I was 03, and that I feel very similar to you.
Yeah, and just calls and letters and calls and trying to get to visits and doing a ton of visits, which was awesome. But then once I went to Tiffin and I did an overnight there, and they were NAI converging, so they were doing the transition to D2.
Okay.
So, which you saw a lot of schools do, because they're similar. You can get scholarship. They're not like D3, but there's no scholarship, so it makes it harder to transition. So they were going through that transition my whole 4 years there, kind of. So it was interesting. But once I got there, it just was the right fit. And so I canceled like 3 visits after that.
Oh, really?
And the coaches were like mad about it. I'm like, I get it, but I already made my choice. I'm not going to waste your time. So that was good. And it helped a lot, at that level that, I had a high GPA. So the school side of it was good. And, I ended up getting half athletic, half academic, full ride, basically free college.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who cares how many plays you play or how many touchdowns you scored or anything? You got a free education, not just education, but a free 4 years of education in football. That's got me where I'm today. I mean, you learn things in college that are drastically different than high school in just the way you learn the game and how deep you can go in the game. So that's kind of how that went. But yeah, it was. Recruiting was kind of annoying at times, just because of the phone calls and the not BS, but kind of, you got to sift through it.
I had nobody, and I don't. Do you have siblings? You
Yeah,
said
I
you
had
had
a
a sister,
sister.
right?
Yeah, one sister.
Was she older?
Yeah, just 1 year older. Yeah.
Okay. Was she getting recruited for anything or going
No,
through that kind of stuff?
she was gonna try to do gymnastics, and then she kind of toyed with doing cheerleading because obviously that transition was flipping. But by the time she started gymnastics when she was 5, so by the time she was 18, her ankles were toast.
Oh,
knees were
yeah,
toast. She
yeah.
just had her knee replaced. So,
Wow.
so she just couldn't do it anymore. So no, she didn't really go through that. I bet she would have. I mean, I always tell her that if you weren't a gymnast, you would have been like a college softball player for sure.
Okay.
Or something,
Okay.
But she just, when you're in gymnastics, it's just every day training 3 hours. There's no time for anything else.
When I was going through that recruiting process, I had nothing nobody or nothing to show me like how to do it or what I was supposed to do. Or I got this letter. Oh yeah, it's from Boston College, but it's just a questionnaire. Okay, is that cool? Is that like what am I supposed to do with this? OU was sending me like all these schools were sending me letters. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with these things. I took 2 visits. One was to BG and one was to UT, and that was just because they were here. I didn't know I could go to visits these other places.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting letters from OU more than any other school, and then I think about it, I was like, and then I look at who they signed. I'm like, they signed a bunch of guys like me, like all my size guys, but I didn't know I was supposed to call them back or send them letters or hook up with these visits or anything like that. And ultimately, I decided I didn't want to play football in college, so nothing would have happened anyway. Or maybe if I would have went, maybe it would have been different. I don't know, but I did enjoy the couple of visits I did go on because it makes you feel special.
Right? For sure.
Yeah, and I tell these kids too, like, visit any school who contacts you that you think you might want to play for them. Go visit them if there's a visit option. Like, you only get one time to do all these things. It might be 2 years, or in Reed's case, it's been like 3 years where he keeps to talk to all these schools. But like, you get one time in high school to feel super special like this and to get experience all these things, sometimes for free, and you can do all these things. Like, go experience everything you can.
Yeah.
Because I remember if I would have known, I could have done more, but it's no one's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of lucky. My dad played at BG. He played football and wrestled at BG.
Oh, wow.
My uncle played at Findlay. My other uncle played at UT. My cousins played at Thomas More down south.
Yeah.
So, we kind of have that. Been around it. My dad, back then he had to make the tapes and send the tapes in, like the highlight tapes.
Yeah.
And, they didn't have Huddle. They didn't have any of that stuff on the internet. So,
shit, my players didn't even play sports at all.
So the process was fun, but now it's totally different. I mean, from a head coaching standpoint, getting to meet with coaches, it 3 years ago, going through it for the first time is different than it is now.
Yeah.
Because now everything's controlled by the transfer portal and where, when, and where, and teams don't even know what their team's going to look like until that closes.
Yeah.
And then it's a mad scramble. And so it's hard. It's hard for kids, especially right when that was happening. Then they hit them with that COVID year. So I had kids that probably should have went and played at a MAC school who just they didn't because there weren't enough scholarships. There's no room for them. So what do? They not play, or do they go play at a smaller school, or then they're not as happy. They don't feel as well. So that's it's been rough. As a coach in trying to help kids, because one of our goals in the program was to, 2 of the main goals was to get coaches that want to progress and move on, not just stick with the same coaches, because I want young coaches who want to learn and want to develop and want to grow.
Yep.
And then also get kids back, because Southview went through a couple years, a while where we didn't have anybody go play college football.
Oh.
And so luckily enough, my 3 years, each year I think we had 3 my first year. We had like 8 last year. And then I think I got 3 or 4 maybe this year.
Okay.
So, and no one's signing like big
Yeah,
big
but-
D1 deals, but
they get the experience.
But they're getting that experience.
Yeah.
And, now I'm getting to develop relationships with some of these coaches. And so now that we're back on their on their checklist of stopping by to see us, so that's helpful too.
Yeah. When you were at Tiffin or went to Tiffin, you mentioned at the beginning that you changed your position. But how was your experience 4 years there at Tiffin playing football?
Well, yeah. So I played center my freshman year, and then they moved me in the summer, that next summer, to tight end, and I played that for 3 years. Experience was, like I said, it was great. It was a great learning experience. I wasn't a starter. I didn't dominate or anything like that. And it was interesting in D2 or doing that transition, because we'd play an NAI school and then we'd go play Dayton, and it'd be I remember weeks where we would win 45-0, then the next week we would just get destroyed. And it was just because to put together a schedule is really hard when you don't have a home.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to say the least, and getting to travel and when you're on a football team at the college level, those are your ride or dies for life. I mean, those guys, I might not see them for years and years and years, but I know, see something on Facebook or something you need, those guys are always going to have your back. And you have that at high school level too, but it's amplified when you're going through, back when I played 3-a-days together and meetings, and you're on campus and it's just the football team's on campus, or you're on a bus trip, 10-hour bus trip because you're D2 and you're not flying anywhere. You're staying at the hotels and all those things. So, I mean, it was a great experience as far as that goes. Like I said, getting a free education and that was just so important and just helpful.
Were you thinking about that as a college student athlete, where you're like, this education piece of it, or is that something after the fact, oh man, that was?
I mean, I would say a little bit of both. I mean, obviously while you're going through it, and if I wasn't going to pay for it, my parents were going to pay for it, so they were very helpful, thankful. But no, I mean, I knew in the back of my head that I would get to a point where I was probably going to be coaching. So I was trying to absorb as much as I could as far as that goes. And you do. I mean, I played offense. I learned way more about defense than offense. That's what. And I just hired a new coach, who he was recruited to play quarterback at Eastern Michigan. But he's been a defensive coordinator, because as a quarterback, all he learned about was defense.
Reading, yep.
He wasn't a starter.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
So he just learned defense. And so then, yes, coaching quarterbacks is how he got into coaching.
Yeah.
But the whole time he's like, my plan is defense, because this is getting my foot in the door, but this is what I know most now.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. I don't think a lot of people think about that. And so I try to tell the kids who want to go to college, I'm like, you better love football. It's not practice in the game is like this little bit. The rest of it is all film and meetings. And so there's a lot more. You got to be passionate about it and love it, especially at the lower levels, because you're not getting new shoes and new gloves every week. You're buying your own shoes.
Yep.
So
that's why ultimately I decided I didn't want to play football. I liked it. It was fun. It was fun because I was good at it, because I was the biggest kid, but I didn't love it. I love coaching, but I just didn't love football enough to have it as my full-time job. And I tell kids that too. If your heart is not 100% into it, then I never tell them not to do it, but I said, you got to really consider your plans here, because it's
it's
tough.
a lot.
It's tough, and it's a lot, and sometimes, some cases, it's a lot of money. That you're going to be wasting away. Maybe not yours, but somebody's.
Yeah, luckily enough, when I was in high school and in college, I always had that passion for the weight room, which I think is very important.
Yes.
So that was kind of like my driving factor, is that, I'm not maybe as big, but I'm as strong as the bigger guys all the time. So if that was my way to stay in, that's what I always did.
What'd you go to school for?
Sports management. So
okay.
I went to sports management. My first intention was to be work for professional sports or be an agent. So actually the first year the Mud Hens were downtown, I was a ticket intern. At Fifth Third, which was an awesome summer. It was sweet.
I bet.
You're at the ballpark every day, fireworks, getting to eat hot dogs and be around that environment. But I learned quickly that that's not what I want to do. It's just a lot of time and effort and just focused on, all right, selling tickets, getting big groups. All right, then the game comes, you got to make the group happy. And it's just like, whew, that's a lot. It's a lot to jump out. So I found a home in campus recreation. So I got a graduate assistantship at BGSU at the rec center. Doing that, and I worked in campus recreation there for 2 years. I went and worked at Virginia Tech for 3 years, which was awesome experience.
Yeah. How'd you get that job?
So, in campus recreation, it's higher ed. So, I mean, it's basically you want a job, you got to move.
Okay.
So you're jumping everywhere. So I interviewed Illinois, Boise State, and Virginia Tech was the first one to offer me a job. So I'm like, all right, job. Basically college town on crack. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's like you take BG and go in there and that college town experience. Blacksburg, Virginia is just nuts. It was a great experience to be young, right out of college. There, season tickets to the football games.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a football environment like none other. That place rocks.
Were you by yourself when you moved down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but obviously you get to meet people. And actually, when I started there, my boss, who played at Ball State, he was a high school official.
Oh,
so that's what I started doing there. He's like, all right, you're going to be official with me. So that was fun. In my first year, I was getting varsity games.
No shit.
And did that for 3 years. And then the job came available at the University of Toledo, which is what I just said. Mm-hmm. Usually you're not going to find a job in campus recreation where you're from.
Yeah.
So when that job came available, I jumped on it, even though BG guy going to Toledo. My dad was like, I don't know about this. I want you to come home, but I don't know if you can't wear that stuff.
Yeah.
But that job came available. I came back here. This was a different world because there wasn't a hurting for officials. And I was like, all right, I'm going to continue officiating. And they're like, well, you're going to have to start from scratch and just start doing, little kid games. I'm like, I've done varsity games for 3 years. I don't want to, I want to go do varsity games. And they're like, well, you got to put in the time. So I was like, oh man. And then that same day, Justin called me. He's like, hey, I just got the 8th grade job at Perrysburg. Do you want to coach with me? And I was like, why not?
How'd you know him?
So when I was in BG in grad school, we were neighbors.
Oh, okay.
So my group of friends in Campbell Hill were right next to him. And
Campbell Hill.
Yeah. Good times there, man, for sure. But no, he was my neighbor, and we played flag football together.
Okay.
So kind of like our two houses and a couple friends, flag football champions at BG
nice.
Intramurals. That's nice.
Yeah, I was too. We were, do you remember your team name?
Fizzle in the fourth. And I'll tell you right now, in Toledo Sport and Social Club, they have touch football, and there's still a Fizzle in the fourth team because we carried it over. I don't play anymore, but we have remnants that are still around there. So
that's funny.
So that team's been playing in some capacity for like 20 years.
That's wild. We had our team name was a Mexican and his friends. And we had 1 year we played and we ended up playing. They had an indoor here for a little bit at the Rossford Dome and stuff. But I didn't know you guys knew each other back then. That's cool, you and Justin.
Yeah. So that's how I got in, and then it was really cool to be so consistent with the junior high class group at Perrysburg, and I think I'm not saying me specifically, but the fact that we had such consistency at 7th and 8th grade at Perrysburg, the classes that Justin and I coached together, almost all of those classes, once they were in the varsity level, they were making the playoffs year after year after year.
Yeah.
So that consistency and quality coaching at the junior high level, I think, had a huge impact, amongst other things, obviously.
No, for sure. Just in life, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just life in general. But boil it down to football, because that's what we're talking about. Consistency it just leaves everything, leaves one big thing. Like it's for sure going to be this way. Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds, if you have anything that just strays from what they're used to, like it's going to affect them physically, mentally, whatever.
Especially coming after 8 hours of sitting down in a classroom, and then you get them and they're like, whew. Just keeping their attention. But I mean, and luckily we were at Perrysburg, where you have classes that are big enough where you can say, all right, this is our system. You're going to fit right there. Cause that's like, you look just like the guard we had last year. You're the same size as the tackle we had last year. You're just as fast at running back. And so it's kind of like a factory there, and you get that. And so
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced at Southview when we have bigger and smaller classes that come through the junior highs. When you have a smaller class of like, say, 15, 17, 18 kids, it's a lot harder to facilitate and keep that encouragement going because, everyone's playing on a position basically.
Yep.
Because the position they want to play, if you got 18 guys, you can't have 6 quarterbacks. You just can't. You can't have 6 running backs. You got to have one, and then you got to play line, and you got to be good at it, or they're not going to be good.
Yeah.
So that's something definitely that we had a great experience, and Justin's still coaching, 8th grade here, and
I tried to get him on the podcast. He's just like, "Thanks, man. It's just not my thing."
No,
okay, man, that's
not
fine.
Get him. No, but no, I mean, like and at least every couple of years or so, I extend the invitation. When I got hired, I said, hey, coaching with you is one of the things I love most about coaching. So if you had any inclination to come over and coach with me, I'd love it. There's always an open invitation. And he goes, you're always welcome back here too, man. So I don't think I'm going to be stepping back down to 8th grade, but at some point it would be fun to coach with him again.
Yeah. I was speaking of stepping down. That's what's happening with me. I got asked to be the head freshman football coach again. I did that. I think it was my 6th year in a varsity. So, 6 years ago was my last year. I did it for 3 years. Really enjoyed it. I like being in charge. I like being the head coach. Like, it's fun. I like being on varsity too because it's varsity football. It's different. Everything's just that much level up higher, and it's more stressful, but it's good. Friday nights, all that stuff. But I always told Dirk, whatever I need to do to help the program. Like, this is my hometown. So some of these guys that we're coaching with didn't go to Perrysburg, and now they are Perrysburg coaches. But I will do whatever we need to do to help, whether it's a 7th grade coach, 8th grade coach, whatever. So he asked me this offseason if I wanted to be the freshman coach. I said, yeah, but my caveat, since he's been here, I told him I'll do whatever, but I want to be back on varsity when Mateo's on varsity.
Yeah,
because I always just had that thing in my mind. Whatever it is, I don't know. I just think it'd be a really cool thing. I saw Todd and Drew do it, and like I wouldn't be his coach because I wasn't an offensive line coach. We have one, but I don't know. It's just a thing in me that I just want to be there for that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool. And I think you got to experience that too, right?
Yeah. So that's why it moved me from Perrysburg to Southview. Was my stepson was going to be a freshman. So I coached the freshman class that year, and then just kind of moved up with him. At the encouragement of Coach Mazes. I mean, I was complacent with just being the freshman coach and again creating that consistency because I thought that was so important.
Yeah.
But he's a persuasive guy, and he and so he talked me into it, and that it's just and it's so addictive coaching because every step along the way I would have been fine just being an 8th grade coach my whole life, I think, but. You just get a taste and you get a taste and then you get a taste and it just it grows on you. But I think one of the things you said just now is like I think a sign of a great football coach is that you can find enjoyment whether you're the varsity head coach, whether you're the freshman coach, because that year I coached freshmen. You're right. I mean, that was one of my favorite years coaching. I mean, I was coaching my kid. I was coaching against the kids I coached
the year before. Yeah.
So that was fun coming back to Perrysburg and playing against my former team. That was a great experience, even though I got a couple bad calls when I came back home like that. I remember that one. I think we lost. I think it was 14-0 or something like that, or 13-0. But there was a couple calls that didn't go our way that year. But that's all right. That's all right. We'll get them eventually.
Hey, home field advantage, right? You get
something like that. We always had that.
Was it Mark
junior high? No, he wasn't. But he definitely has helped out numerous days.
I remember I would do because I started as an official, and all I did was Perrysburg from 7th all the way to JV. It was me, Mark Gumpf, his son, one of my best friends, Adam, and then a couple other Perrysburg guys. But that I remember, and Mark did some of my games. And I remember him like going to us like, hey. Knock it off. Like, okay, just throw the flag, I guess. But he was Perrysburg guy through and through.
Yes, for sure.
But just like you said, just coaching I coached everything from T-ball to flag football. So I was a travel softball coach for 3 years. Like I just love coaching, especially the head coach aspect of it. And there's a lot of coaches which talking to Coach Kriegel, like he likes being the head football coach, but after a while, it's the stuff outside of football, like, emails and parents and setting up this schedule and doing this and doing that, where it's tough. That's just part of being a head coach, though. And after a while, that, ultimately it's just like, what, I'm just done with everything.
Right. And that's the biggest difference. I mean, you coach way less football when you're the head coach. I mean, if you want to focus on the coaching aspect, all the other stuff's going to kind of fall between the cracks, because you can't do everything, and you can't have consistency and all of those things if you're just focused on, okay, I'm the head coach, but I'm also going to call the plays. You can't do that because then you're leaving stuff out, and you're going to create ripples that are going to hurt the program and hurt your players. So the number one thing I did, I try to do every year is to put together the best staff I can possibly put together. And that's reaching out and continuing to interview people, even if you don't think you're going to hire them or they're going to try to go. But, being around football for so long, the kids you coach now are starting to coach, and which ones are going to be good.
Yeah.
And you brought one just up a minute ago that I've been after the last 2 years, and he won't convert over in Drew, but oh man, he's going to be a phenomenal coach. I know he's applied to a couple head jobs already, and I told him, dude, you need to focus on being an OC right now, because you're going to be a great coach. He already is a great coach. I'm going to say that. I mean, he's
a great head coach.
Yeah, he's going to be a great head coach one day, and he checks all the boxes, and he's so smart, and he was such a good player. I mean, I remember coaching him in 8th grade, and he's improvising plays at like a varsity level as an 8th grader.
Yeah.
Like he's just playing chess, and everyone else around him was playing checkers. And you could see that when he was at Heidelberg too. I mean, just a great kid. And so, I interviewed him this year to come over and coach with us, but, he chose to stay. He got a teaching job at Eastwood, and you can't, I tried to get him one, and we couldn't get one quick enough for him. So
I told him, I was like, I don't know where you're going to be or what you're going to be at, but before I'm done coaching, I want to be on your staff, is what I told him. I was like, whatever that is, once my kids are out of school, like that's what I want to do. Because you're right, he's going to be great. And he was my first, when I became the head freshman coach, he was the first freshman class I coached. And he was a big reason for our success, but also for my growth. Like, because he was real comfortable, because he knew me for a while. I mean, I would umpire his games too when he was younger, and being around obviously his dad was one of my coaches too. And so he was comfortable enough coming up to me to say, hey, I think we should be doing this more, or we need to be doing this more in practice. We should probably do a little more conditioning. All these things as a new head coach, like, helpful, was great. Yeah. It was awesome. And I was able to carry that over for the next couple of years.
He just learned so much the year before that. So.
Yeah. And then, and besides his football knowledge, like, he's just a great dude. Like, he's an awesome person. And, my kids love him. Their first ever college football game was Heidelberg at Adrian, was their first college football game. And then taking pictures of them and saying hi to him, and he babysat them for a while. Like, all these things just make him that better of a hire whenever that may happen.
Yeah. That's going to happen sooner or later.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I told Cotterman that too. We were at a football dinner, I think 2 years ago. You enjoy him while you got him, because he's not going to be there for very long. Yeah. That I've through my years, I've interviewed for several positions, and I remember talking with you before. I when Cotterman got the job, he talked to me about being OC there, and I interviewed for the Northview job, which I didn't think I had any business interviewing for that head coaching job, but they gave it to me. They gave me an interview, and they were able to, like, and I even told them at the interview, I was like, okay, what on my resume made you pick me? And they're like, oh, that's a great, no one's ever asked us that question. And, and it was all these, besides the football stuff, it was all like, well, I talked to this person and they know you very well. And I talked to this person but having all these opportunities, and it just makes you feel, it always makes me feel like I'm doing something good where these other people notice it, whether it's a conversation or an actual sit down interview with 6 people, all these things just makes me feel like, all right, what I'm doing, however I'm doing it, is noticed to other people, that it keeps me going forward, and I would imagine similar to you, where, like, all right, this person keeps asking me to, like, do more, or be a higher varsity, or be a varsity coach, and all this stuff, and like, I'm perfectly content here, but maybe they see something in me that I don't, Right. And as another thing, before I was a head football coach, I spent a year as a head track coach. I don't know that much about track. I was a thrower. My stepson ran track, and our AD was like, look, we got all the assistants already lined up. Our head coach stepped down. We just need someone to manage, basically. And I'm like, well, I'm organized. I can manage. And so it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I had to learn so much stuff.
Yeah.
But it was like, all right. It was like putting a puzzle together at every track meet because it was like, all right, I want to win the track meet.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, maybe the one thing I suffered from most is in track and field. You know, you got a lot of individuals. And once you pass the end of the season and get into the district and regional and state, it's all individual now, pretty much, unless you got a huge team. And so I was just so tripped up on, okay, I want our team to succeed. So I think I stretched some people some too thin in certain areas because I was trying to score as many points as possible. Yep. I wasn't thinking, okay, well, if this kid only does this race or these 2 races, he's going to probably win both of them. But if he does these 3 races and gets second in all of them, that's going to give us more points. Yeah. So, kind of overthink things. Yep. And I did that for a year, and then I was a throwers coach because Coach Mages took over the head job because I wasn't going to be head football and head track. Yeah. So it was fun. Track meets are fun when it's not raining. But it just got too hard to do more than one sport. You know, I got a 6-year-old, so she takes up as much time as I can get with her because she's a blast.
Yeah. I agree with you. Track meets are fun. I coached junior high track for a while. Mateo just did finish his first year doing throwing, but you're right. The weather is terrible. Yeah, it's so terrible. I don't know what it is. You can give me the same weather in the fall, and it's for whatever reason a little more tolerable.
Yeah, it is. It is. But yeah, and that's the other thing. If I'm going to go to a track meet, I might as well be coaching. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. If I'm going to go watch a football game, I might as well. If I'm going to go to my daughter's when she was 4-year-old soccer, I'm not just going to stand there. If I see an area where I can help, I'm going to help.
And if you do, it's very difficult. I know it is for me.
I did soccer with it's like herding cats, and it's crazy. Best story was so my sister, my daughter goes to Montessori, Westside Montessori. So they had their own soccer team in the Sylvania League. Most of the kids never played soccer before, so we weren't very good. But that's not the point.
Yeah, especially that young.
Yeah. And so we didn't score a goal, I think, until the last game, right? And so we're going into the last game, and right before that, my daughter had tap class, right? So she had dance, and her shoes were too small. She got a blister on her ankle. It was the end of the world. We're still trying to get soccer. I'm soccer coach. I gotta go. I gotta be there. We gotta move. So she's like limping along, can't even get there. And then as soon as she crossed the line to get onto the soccer field, she was full speed.
Blister went away, huh?
Blister went away. And it's like she, for whatever reason, took all the coaching that she didn't listen to all year. And she was doing amazing. And she scored a goal. Oh, wow. And her other friend scored a goal. So it was 2-2. We ended up tying. But it was like we won the Super Bowl. Yeah. But every time she came off the field, then she was limping. And then she'd come back across the line. So either there's something magical out at the soccer fields in Sylvania or something was up. But that's sports, right? Yeah, I mean, because you can say whatever you want, but as soon as you in that situation and let your body take over and your coaching take over, it was just a cool experience. Yeah. And if she never plays soccer again, I always have that memory. And it was hilarious, but also like fulfilling to say, okay, I don't know a lot about soccer, but the things I was saying actually resonated with some of these kids, and they got better. Yep. So that's the fun thing.
That was whenever I coach little kid baseball or softball, I liked it because I think as long as you're a good coach, whatever you're coaching, that athlete's going to get some percentage better. Now, as they get older, it's a smaller percentage, but they're going to get better. When they're little kids, they get so much better in a six-week season. It's so cool to see. Like, 9 of these girls never hit a softball, and then by the end of the season, everyone's hitting the softball. Like, it's such a cool thing.
And I just want to say something, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
We've mentioned this numerous times today and saying about good coaching. And I'm not talking, I mean, it has almost nothing to do with the sport itself or the individual, like how to swing a bat or how to throw a football or how to catch a football. That's not how you become a good coach. And if you're coaching out there or somebody listening and they're like, to be a good coach, I need to learn more. I need to learn more about the sport. No, you got to learn how to coach. And it's teaching. And it's just caring about the kids. What's the quote? They don't care about what you know until they know that you care. Like that's a huge quote just to live by, because you got to get that buy-in, and that's the most important thing about coaching. Way more than anything you could teach somebody, it's how to teach them and how to motivate them, and just being there when you say you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think that's like, we keep mentioning a good coach, but you got to define things, I think, nowadays more than ever, because it's just the way the world is. And you just got to know, okay, this is what it means from my perspective as a good coach.
You're right, because you can have all the, let's just say football coach, because that's what we both do. You can have all the knowledge in the world about football, but if you can't articulate that to somebody in a respectful manner, in a manner that they can understand, and you know, breaking it down in a certain way, like all these things, then it doesn't matter, because they're not listening to you, or they don't care, or you're mean or whatever. And then as the years go by, if something were to change where I have all this knowledge, I'm also very good at articulating to the people. Then there's grace when you do get mad about something, or when you blow up when you probably didn't need to. There's a little bit of grace because you've built up all this
Relationship.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You built this relationship with this person, or with this team, or with whoever that they know, or even your staff. Like if you built this relationship with your staff, and then something happens on a Friday night, and you're arguing about something, well, then afterward everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna talk about it, and you're gonna.
And it's those relationships, and that's the biggest change coming from in junior high. You know, you have a new class every year. So you develop a relationship, and then at Perrysburg does a great job of including your junior high coaches in the games and on the sideline, and you see the players grow and develop, hopefully, as they go through. Which is great. But switching to being a high school coach, and I'm sure you've noticed this, it's like now you're spending 4 years with these kids. And now, that's the addictive part that I mentioned earlier of why I moved up, because it's that relationship. You're 4 years, somebody. I mean, you're like a parent to them. You're around them sometimes more than they are around their parents. And that's not a negative thing of parenting or anything like that. It's just, it's the fact that you're with them every day for 3 hours after school. And not with everyone, because people put blockers up, or some people don't want that relationship, but the guys you form relationships, bonds for, then, they need something anywhere down the road, you got their back, or you need something from them as they grow. I mean, 18 years, the guys I coached a long time ago are now, their parents themselves, they're coaches, their kids are playing. So it's just really cool to see that go through that process. But it all is relationship building, and the coaches too, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part about going down to freshmen, is much like junior high. It's like, all right, here's a freshman class. All right, then we're on to the next freshman class, because I know, like, being the tight ends coach for the past 3 years, like, I've got real tight with my tight ends that I see all the time, and that's the part I'm going to be missing. But on the other side, when I was the freshman coach, I didn't know just the tight ends then. I knew the entire team. So as they became sophomores, juniors, and seniors, like, I knew everybody, and I could talk to them on the sidelines, or if the season was over and then I went to the varsity practice for the remainder of the playoffs or whatever. Like,
well, and you could help the coaches say, okay, this is what helped with this kid last year.
Correct.
This is he's just giving you that, you push him, you can take it. So yeah, that's the other side of it. Yeah.
So that's partly what I'm looking forward to, is like. And when I was the JV coach, the same thing. I get to know all these kids. Like, I think halfway through the season, I'm like, "Who's that kid?" They're like, "Oh, he's a sophomore offensive lineman." I was like, "Oh, I had no idea who that kid is." So that's a plus of coming back and doing that thing.
Yeah. No. Coaching freshmen is, you got to have a good freshman coach. It helps the program and being consistent, and you're a great person for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I am looking forward to. I love. I know public schools, it's hard to say recruiting, because you can't recruit. We're like, well, you can talk to your own kids.
You recruit your own players.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
And the other thing is, you got to recruit other sports, because I preach to death, play as many sports as you can in high school. Very rarely would I come across an athlete who was a basketball player or a baseball player at the high school Division II level that you say, oh, you need to just focus on basketball because you're going to Duke.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's gone to Duke from Sylvania. I don't believe so for basketball. I just don't think it's happened. And we have some great basketball players come through Sylvania. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to be better because you're going to play different sports and you're going to work different muscles. You're going to develop more relationships and you're going to be better. So I encourage it. It makes it harder at times.
Oh yeah.
But like, for example, right now we're in spring. I think out of our 70 returning players, like 40 some are in a spring sport.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, in 2 weeks we can start having practices, right? But I can't because they're all playing sport.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put a kid in a position where like, all right, well, I know you got a baseball game coming up, but I need you in the weight room. You can't do that.
Well,
You want the kid to be the best baseball player
Yeah.
ever. And so that's the double-edged sword, but it's all about the experience of high school and making sure you have a good experience playing as many sports while you can, because you can't do it after this.
Yeah.
We can't go play football. We can pretend and go play flag football or something. We'll probably both get hurt.
Yep.
But you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so enjoy it. And if you even have a thought of maybe I might want to play football and you're a basketball starter or something, play.
That's one of my favorite things I do. Dirk has me we put together a recruiting video, and to go along to the statement you made about if you need something from foreign players, they'll help you out. I could text these players. I texted the Hunt twins who graduated a couple years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this recruiting video. Can you guys be in it? Oh yeah, when do you need it? Like they're there, and I like doing that things because I know it's going to help the team, and hopefully we can get some of these kids that don't play football. They haven't played football since 8th grade. Hopefully we can get some of these kids out there, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing. Like, who do you know in your class that should be playing football? Let's talk to them.
And now the trend is with the bigger schools like Perrysburg, I think Anthony Wayne's doing it, Avon, is they're having 2 7th grade teams, 2 8th grade teams, 2 freshman teams, 2 JV teams, because it's not about winning at those levels. It's about getting kids reps, because you don't know. Yeah. You don't know that what 7th grader is going to hit a growth spurt of 3 and be 6'6", 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You might guess a couple, but you don't know. And the best example of that at Perrysburg in my time here is Suarez.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play 8th grade. He was like second string. He didn't play.
Okay.
But I was like, there's something about this kid. I want to try to get him on the field. But we had some really good offensive linemen that year. And so it was no shock to me that, he started 2 years on varsity and now he's a coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great kid and great success story. And I don't know if he even remembers me, but I've told his story as many times as I can remember, just about examples of, hey, you might not be a starter in 7th grade or 8th grade or even as a freshman, but if you work, you can still be a starter in a varsity program. I mean, I was the same way. I didn't start in my freshman or sophomore year. I started my junior and senior year.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like, if you would have looked at me as a freshman and said, this kid's going to start 2 years in varsity and go play college football, I don't think anybody would have said that. They might have looked, his dad played, so maybe, I don't know. But it's all about your effort and your attitude and how much work you're going to put in. And so a kid like that, I'm a huge cheerleader for, and just those are great examples of why we coach.
I have one too where I point to. It's Mitchell Smith, who was when I had him as a freshman, he was the starting offensive tackle. I think he was the right tackle, and I had to take him out. Like he just halfway through the season wasn't doing well, so I replaced him, and we were fine. It worked out fine. And then same thing. I don't think he started until his senior year, and then he ended up going to Heidelberg, and now I think he played some games as a freshman. I think he's going to be starting. He has the best grades he's ever gotten. Whenever I talk to him or his dad about it, like his grades are awesome because he used to be a poor student. Like, just you never know when things are going to click or how they're going to click. And as long as you, like you said, just keep being consistent, have a good attitude, and go through all these things, like it can open up a lot of things for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we had another situation this year. Finally clicked with a player. He's a senior, Tony, and great athlete, football player, basketball player, track guy. And this is the first year, his senior year, where he's been eligible all 3 seasons.
Oh, really?
And now I think he's gonna go to Bluffton and play.
Okay.
So his grades are better than they've ever been. And it's not that he was not smart. He's not that he's not there. He's present all the time. It just didn't do it. It just didn't click of why do I need to do this? Why do I do this?
Yeah.
And then it finally clicked with him. And he's had a great senior year playing basketball, playing football, and doing track, and contributing at all 3, and just a great kid and success story. But it just took a lot of effort for 3 years.
Yeah.
Just pounding him, do your homework. Okay, go take him, take Tony, make sure he gets his homework turned in.
Yeah.
And finally when it clicks, it's like, all right, We got that one. Didn't want to lose that one. Put a lot of effort into that one.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. The end is always like you're not. We're not going to remember exactly what happened in each game, but we're going to remember things like that.
Right.
Where this kid got to where he was, and I might have been a small part of it. So those are those success stories we get because we get to coach. So
yeah.
Well, thanks I appreciate you coming on here, man.
No
like I
worries.
said, I've known you for a while, and
So what years did you coach 7th grade? You coached 7th grade, right?
I was there with Godsey. Do you remember when Brandon Godsey was there? So I was there for.
He was there, maybe 2 or 3 years? He was 1 year with us in 8th grade, and then he got the 7th grade job.
And that was when I became a 7th grade coach, was with him I think I was there for 2 years.
Was that before or after Chad was there? Because Chad coached 7th grade line too, McCarthy.
I don't remember Chad. So I wasn't there when Chad was there.
I think it was just 1 year with Brandon. So maybe the year after.
Maybe. Because I think I was there for 2 years, and then that's when I became a freshman coach.
Right.
Yeah. But I remember applying for the head 7th grade coach when Gotsey got it. And I was interviewing with, who did I interview with? Who was the AD? Oh, Frank.
Yeah.
He was the AD.
right.
And I remember him asking me questions about offense and this and that. I didn't know what I was doing. And he called me. He was like, hey, we're not going to give you that job, but we think you can be the offensive line coach. I was like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. And
At least it was Frank with you,
Yeah.
Frank with you.
Well, he was my head coach too when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah. He was fun to be around.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good time. I think I ended up being defensive coordinator too for a little bit. So I got to experience a lot of things. So
yeah, so it's been since then. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, Steve, thanks for coming on here. I appreciate talking to you, man.
Thank you. No worries.
Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. If you want to reach out or be on the show, just search the Nerdball Podcast on any social media. If you want to email us, that is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, there's always YouTube, so you can go on there, subscribe to the Nerdball Podcast, and watch the podcast every week. As always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuddlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always supporting the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.